this morning, so she might be, oh, well, she'll definitely be done by now. Hopefully, she'll let us know how she did. I'm sure she did great.
Yeah, so let us know, Linda, because we're pulling for you. We would like to see whatever results are. Doesn't matter because you finished, right? Anyway, so today we're going to talk about kind of pushing through the running plateau because we all hit it at some point in time.
I hit it for years, and
which is also common.
And we'll just talk about things. Don't do what I did. Yes, runners do silly things. So I was a lot of things that at the time when you're, like I said, sometimes you can't see the tree for the forest. We get very dogmatic with our running. We get very, you know how it is. You're a runner, you get it. So when we could step back and look back at what the science says, how we adapt, and all of that, you can kind of make better choices, and it can make it a little bit easier to do some of these.
Yeah, so today we're going to go into breaking the barrier, insider tips to smashing through the dreaded running plateau. Which again,
at all
levels, because even it happens to elite athletes, right? So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So as we say each week, this is not medical advice. Always consult a doctor or your physician if you're going to do anything different. Because the bottom line is you can do great things. We can do great things. We still have it in us.
You guys are doing great.
You guys are amazing. Yes. So we want to make sure that we keep doing, these things to kind of remind us, because we know that we're all going to go through this. It's just human nature, right? So quick recap of last week, we talked about the impacts of the circadian rhythm for runners. It's your internal biological clock. I can't speak right now. Coordinates different events such as your hormone regulation, which a lot of people don't realize, your digestion activity.
It has a big influence. Our sleep-wake cycle, this is something that we had. It's a primitive. It's in our DNA. We can't get past it. And when we disrupt it through our lifestyle, it has adverse effects. So watch that video. We give you some strategies on simple things, just changing the wake sleep times, keeping a schedule. There's all kinds of things that you can do. But we have things that are attacking this at all times. So we have to be mindful of it and do things to make sure that we are staying on track so our body can perform like we want it to.
Yeah, exactly. And then things that can disrupt it are too much light. Again, from our devices, time zone changes if you're traveling, and obviously stress, which all of us deal with in some form or other. So that can affect your sleep, which we know, but it's good to be reminded of this, right? And it's going to clearly impact your performance, your energy levels, because we've all been just out of it. Lack of focus, you just are foggy, and it's because you're not getting enough sleep.
You've had those days where you're like, it's like, you just feel off and you feel tired. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a lot of days like that, and they do not trace it back to, this is probably the first thing. If you've got something going on, your sleep's not great, you want to optimize anything, sleep is the first place that you start with.
Yep, exactly. So then we gave some tips. Again, try to avoid caffeine late in the afternoon, especially in the evening, because caffeine stays in your system for a number of hours. And alcohol, obviously in moderation if you choose to drink. Try to get into a good routine. And the key thing was, a lot of people don't realize this, if you can get some sunlight or natural light within 20 minutes waking up, it will help your circadian rhythm.
Now, getting morning sunlight is key. If you want optimal, everybody wants optimal, but sometimes that doesn't work or whatever. Ideally, if you're going for the best thing, it's within 20 minutes. But getting sunlight in the morning, at least before 10, is ideal. It sets just a whole cast of things that are going to happen, allow you to sleep at night. Good sleep at night starts in the morning, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to go into, again, breaking the barrier. And giving you guys some tips on smashing through the dreaded running plateau. Because again, it affects all of us. We're the weekend runners, so to speak, even though we run during the week.
But you guys have a lot of, people that are not runners, look at us recreational runners. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, whatever they do. But we know we take it seriously. No matter what our degree of fast is.
That's right. Yeah.
Not slow, our degree of fast. No matter what our length is, if we're doing 5Ks, we're doing marathons or ultras, we all take it seriously. So this affects all of us. It can affect, it can be kind of demoralizing. So some tips, things not to do, and strategies for breaking through.
Yep. So obviously, some of this stuff you already know, but it's just some signs that you've hit a plateau where you're just not making any progress with your training, right? And we've all been there in many
Yes.
aspects, whether you're running or whatever you're doing, right? And it affects all runners, as I mentioned. Of all, it's funny because you hear that when you hear a professional
Mhm.
runner, the people who are getting paid or doing Olympics or the national teams, and they hear this, you're like, how is that possible? But it's true. It is possible because it's just
Yeah,
human nature.
exactly. But uh, mostly with runners, it's like you want to get faster, you want to qualify for that Boston, or you want a PR race, and you just with all your training, all the stuff that you're doing, you just can't seem to get there. That is a sign that you need to adjust something because what you're doing isn't working.
Yeah, exactly. So then you can't run any farther. So again, now if you're trying to run faster, you're struggling just to make that little bit of progress. And it's the same thing with I got to run that little bit extra, and you just can't do it.
Yeah, you can't see yourself going from a half marathon to a marathon. That is a
It's
big
a big
leap.
step. It's a huge step.
Most any runner can actually do that, but there's a lot of barriers that keep people just not able to cross over that. So that is you're kind of plateaued at that distance, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the other big one, as I mentioned earlier, is you just can't seem to harness your potential that you know you have in you.
Uh,
We stop and think one of those mornings you get up, it's quiet. You think, I got more in me. I know I do. We know you do. And so that's a potentially a sign that you've hit a plateau. And then obviously if it's hard to maintain any kind of consistency, that's another sign.
that's another sign that, especially if you can be faster, you're just not quite sure how to get that. You're afraid to try to get faster. That's a big reason why that keeps us at our plateaus, because of the fear of failure. That's a huge thing that stops a
Yeah.
lot of people from
Yes.
doing things.
Yep.
Um, but a lot of us know that it's like, yeah, I probably could qualify for Boston. It would take a lot of work, but it's like, but pushing, it's safer to stay at that plateau. Sometimes we stay there because it's also safer and it's what we know. Um, but that's when it gets really hard to stay consistent with doing it because you're not seeing that progression. Our body likes to progress. We like to see improvements. It's just a natural thing, and when we're not doing that, it really makes that consistency with running, which running, weightlifting, all that stuff, consistency without it, you know how that goes. It's you need consistency to be good at anything,
Yeah.
especially running.
So consistent action. Yeah, that's critical to anything in life when you really think about that, right? You want
Yep.
to make progress, you want to break through, you just got to be consistent. You'll get through those little bumps that you're going to
Yeah,
experience.
you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be super talented because you know what? That consistency beats talent that doesn't work hard.
What is that old phrase from Woody Allen that I know a lot of us will recognize? Just showing up, you're going to get, what is it? Something wrong. If you show up, you're going to beat half the people, more than half the people anyway. So
Yeah,
that's
so
consistency, right?
absolutely, you just have to show up.
Yeah.
But there are specific things that really cause it. One of the biggest things is how your training is going. You need to have specific blocks that progress you to, that's what periodization is, slowly progressing you to different phases. You 100%, there's three big key parts to that. So if you're not going through those key parts and progressing through those, you're not going to get that adaptations that are going to allow you to improve, whether it's your distance, whether it's your speed, whether it's both. It's just not going to happen. So that's probably the biggest thing, is not having a training plan that does that.
Yeah, exactly. So the one thing this one was guilty of was just overtraining and not allowing for enough time for recovery. She'd finish a marathon, wait 1 week, maybe two,
No, it was 1 week.
more like a
I was
week, and
doing,
then she was
yeah.
back at it. And I was like, "Are you sure? Don't you want to take some time off to let your body recover?" And nope, I'm going to go
I
right
had the
back at it.
misconception that it was better to be trained up than to lose any of that. Which that is the fastest way to hit a plateau and stay there, is doing what I did for 7 some odd years. So I was silly for 7 years, like doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I got longer distances, but getting faster did not happen at all in any of those. So, and now I know, but we can be, like I said, not see the forest for the trees, be really dogmatic, be like, I know this works, this works. We get superstitious about some of our training. Runners do a lot of weird things, because those distances are long. We know it works. It's hard to switch something when you know it works, because if something goes wrong and you've got 26.2 miles to run, that's awful. And we've all had awful. If you've run enough, done enough races, you've had some ones that have been, maybe multiple ones, ones that have not gone well and been awful. So being mindful, this is another big thing that will keep you at that level and not let you reach your full potential.
Yeah, and that's a key one. People don't realize this. Now, here's another one, is that we tie this back all the time. Poor nutrition, right? If you're not eating properly, which is why we harp on this so much, it's going to lead you to potentially hitting a plateau because your body's not functioning properly.
Yeah, it's either on the performance side or the recovery side. You need nutrition. Hydration and nutrition is a huge part of it. So this is one of the things, you can look at, but it will, over time, like I said, you can't ask your body to do all these things without giving it the fuel it needs to do these things.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the other foundation for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have a clear why we were trying to train for that race, why we're trying to improve our strength, why we're trying to increase our mobility, reduce our injury, chances for injury. Because if we don't have a why, you're not going to be consistent.
Yeah.
And you're going to hit plateaus, and you're going to be up and down, up and down. You're not going to make any progress.
To get to that next level, to reach your full potential, you have to have a big why, because it's going to take a different version of you than now.
Yeah, it really is. When you stop and think
when we try to be the same and want something different, like I said, don't be insane like I did for multiple years. It doesn't work that way. You have to have a big enough why, and you have to see yourself being able to do that.
Yeah.
That's a huge.
And we've all gone through that at various times, and we will continue to go through that.
Yeah.
But you just have to make sure you focus on that and figure out what that is. And a lot of us, we're guilty of it as well, have not kind of drilled really deep into that. And when you do, things change. I can guarantee that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So strategies to break through, because obviously we get to that spot. Well, what are we going to do to break through, right? So
this is what
she did not do.
I did not do. You need to recognize that a marathon, and even though I knew a marathon, it does a lot of damage. It's hard. It's doing all these things, but knowing that it's what it does, and then being willing to take the time off. I was not willing, because I thought I would lose fitness like right away, and I wanted to, there's something to be said when you're in the height of your training, especially for a marathon, when a 10-mile run on your schedule is like, oh, that's easy. Well, it doesn't get hard till I have to run 18 or something. And I got caught in that loop of, oh, I never want to have to go back to where 8 is kind of hard, 10's hard.
That was your mistake. She said that all the time.
It makes zero sense. But to me at that time, it did. Now I know that was really flawed. And that was the reason why I plateaued for a long time. You have to, we know it damages it stresses our immune system. It damages cells. It damages muscle. It does all these things. We know that. You can find 1,000 studies that show how the degree to what it does. Your body can recover from that, though. That's what's amazing about it. We can do these catabolic events that are really hard on it. If you recover properly for it, it will come back stronger if you do this. So you need to take time off for a marathon, at least like 7 to 10 days. It doesn't mean laying on the couch, but walking instead of running. If you've gone all out and you've PR'd, you've been doing a hard marathon training thing, and you gave it your all during that race, it's hard to get to that level of the peak of your fitness and then be like, put the brakes on. That's a hard transition. But if you don't do that and take that time off,
your body's not going to recover, right?
It's not going to help you. You need to take that time off, Allow it to recover. Remember, you are repairing damaged tissue. You're repairing damaged cells we know the cellular damage can last up to, 7, even longer. So you're going to start out on damaged tissue, asking it to do more and expect bigger things. You just have to trust that you're not going to lose all your fitness. You need to detrain and then recognize that you're going to have to start a whole new training block. Give your time to recover, get things back to where that needs to be, and then start your base. It needs to have those 3 blocks of training. Start your base training again. Start slowly doing that again. You're not losing fitness. You're giving your body a break, and you're coming back and being able to tackle more, because you're going to have to do something a little bit different if you want a different result. You're going to have to train a little bit differently, and that can look different for everybody. But know that you have to take a break from it. You have to detrain for a little while. I'm not saying take months off, but you got to take more than a couple of days. Some people you see people doing the London Marathon, was just long ago, these big races, and then you see the really fast runners, they're like 2 days later, they're showing their run that they're doing 3 days later. If that works for them, but running at that level and not taking some time off, people that get in injury cycles tend to be in that category. So just saying.
So the one thing that, again, we also focus on, because we're all getting older, right, is we've got to be consistent with our strength training.
And this is sadly one of the things that runners, even fast runners, even good runners, even people that have still the strength part of it is just not, when it's never been your focus, it's hard. It's a change. It's hard to do. It can be intimidating. There's all things barriers that can keep you from there. But this has to be part of it. If you're not doing this at least 2 days a week, and if it's during your base training phase, ideally getting 3 days a week is going to be optimal. You need to be strong enough to ask your body to do more. Running is a hard impact, 2 to 3 times your body weight. You have to be strong enough to be able to do it. So if you're not consistent with this and you're expecting and trying to do different things, this is one of the things. Fix this first. Get this as a consistent, if it's 2 days a week, fine. Make those 2 days a week count. Remember, you got to go through don't make it complicated. Don't, it's push, it's pull, it's hinge, it's lunge, it's squat. These are just, the rotation, big compound movements. If you don't have a lot of time, superset, do a circuit training, do something. But remember, you have to, as you do with your training plan, you have to progress this slowly also and keep adding more weight. You can't keep lifting the same weight, keep doing the exact same exercises and not increase the load on your body and expect to get more. But this, it can't be an afterthought. It can't be like, oh, this is something I just got to check off. It has to be part of your training plan.
Yeah, the checking off is pretty much, a lot of people do that. We've done that too, but it's just, you got to be, again, purposeful, which goes back to what is your why, right? So this is one that I have not done as well a job as she has, as she's kind of evolved into this, is just implementing and adjusting any kind of speed workout, which is when you
consistency.
Yeah, this is hard. This is a harder one.
This is big. You can't just sporadically do this without having probably bad consequences. So this should be in your training plan, and your base building training plan, where you've come off of something. You might have to just start with strides. Strides are something everybody should be doing every week. We've gone over what strides are. They're the bell curve. You're up 5 seconds. You accelerate, for 20 seconds, and then decelerate for 5 seconds. So short, then you do a little recovery. You do it again. You do 4 to 6, no more than 6. They're 30 seconds. Some people do 20 seconds, whatever it is. You do it after, I like to do it after my shorter run the day before my long run. You can do it after. You're not going to do it after a hard workout, but you would do it after one of your easy workouts or runs. But then adjusting, like I said, the speed workouts, it's some people do well. A lot of training things have you doing a tempo run and to have you doing an interval. You know, they call it the VO2 max and then the lactate threshold. Well, these energy systems, you can add these in to runs that you're already, your core type of runs that you're doing without adding an extra speed workout. So I was doing an interval and a tempo, and I realized that's actually too much. Doing two, especially, not that I'm old, but getting older, we have to look at these things, our cumulative stress. So you might have to take away something that you think is, take away something. Sometimes more is not better. And with speed, especially, it's not better all the time. So you need to look at that. You doing more and more of those workouts might be hindering you from actually getting better. And it's counterintuitive. I know that. But I realized last year when I was doing that training thing, doing that 2 days a week, it was too much. And I got to where it was just overwhelming. And it's that slow buildup of like, you get to where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, and that's where we never want to get. But when we get these things wrong, so don't be afraid to do less, that might be it.
And finally, she has learned this lesson because that was a big deal,
Yeah.
right? That was a big deal. So the other thing around this is ties into what Patty was just saying is you really should focus on decreasing your mileage, or for some people, increasing your mileage. Right now, I need to increase my mileage because I've been running a little bit too much consistency at the same area. Some of it's due to time, but I know that I've got to increase my mileage.
Yeah. So if you're under the thing, but there was a big push of like, the more you run, the better you're going to be a runner. And there's something to the truth to that. But a lot of people took that to running 70, 80, miles a week as recreational runners. That's
it's a lot of miles. Yeah.
A lot of miles. And, and I talked to a lot of people that actually, when they backed it off to like 40 or 50 for the set, they actually wound up doing much better, so more is not always better. But if you're always under, if you're training for, half marathons, it might be increasing your long run past your marathon, past that distance, past the 13, getting a 14 or a 15. That might be the thing that helps you just a little bit. We're not increasing tons of miles, but increasing your long runs. If you do marathons and you only do like a 20-mile, a lot of people build up to 120-mile, that's their end. That's where they peak at. It might be doing a 22-mile might help you. It might be adding another 20-mile in there. You might need, because the long run is the key to the distance of, especially with marathon training and half marathon training. You have to have that experience of being on, the miles on your feet. So it might be, you just need a little more of that. So being willing to adjust these things and recognizing what's working for you and what's not working for you. If you're plateaued and you're not getting the progress that you feel like you should be getting, you're going to have to start looking at some of these and adjust these.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing comes down to, again, tying to the variations, just doing different race lengths. Again, she looked at it, doing a half marathon to her, she scoffed at it, or a 10K. And I was like, what are you talking about?
It's a ridiculous.
Right, but that was her mindset at the time.
It's like, if I can do a marathon or if I could do longer, why would I do something shorter?
Right.
I
know, right?
Like I said, when I say these things out loud now, it's absolutely absurd. It's not like I was some elite runner or something like that, but it just, in my mind, it's like, no, I can do a marathon. Why would I do a half? And that does not make sense. A marathoner, just like a 5K person would benefit from doing longer races, a marathoner would do great benefits from adding in a 5K or training for a 10K, training for different things. Our body likes variety in these things. It changes, different energy systems. It mindset. You can go all out in a 5 or a 10K and not worry about it because you're not running that many miles. If you're not used to going all out and putting everything in there, you PRing in a marathon is going to be a little difficult. That was the biggest thing I struggled. I could easily run a marathon, be fine afterwards. I would shower, I'd go out, we'd sightsee because I traveled for all of them, and it was like no big deal. But I was never pushing myself like you would in a 5K or a 10K. If I would have backed off a little bit, done some of those races, felt what it felt like to actually push myself like that, I would have been able to implement that in the marathon. So you can't be so dogmatic. You have to be willing to step back, make adjustments. That's how you can ensure that you, don't get into a plateau, or if you do, you can get out of it. There's multiple different strategies. Like I said, it could be just increasing your weekly mileage by, you usually have a medium long run. What do they do? Or a medium, during the week, it's like a 4, a 6, or a 4. Well, instead of then doing a 5, a 8, and a 4, increase that middle one, leave those other ones, and add 2 to that. That's more your distance. That's more the long things, and add to your long run. Those are still the building blocks of distance running. So be more strategic when you do increase your mileages and try mixing it up, where you do that.
Yeah, and that's going to really factor into, again, breaking the plateau, which you're going to be into. But the bottom line is every workout you do, every run you do, and this is easier said than done, I get it, but try to be purposeful, because going through the motions, while at least you're doing some activity, is helpful. It's better than nothing. If you have that purposeful, it's going to be just that little bit extra that you need so you can break through that plateau.
And if you talk to, you've heard podcasts, and they always are interviewing elite runners, runners, all that. There are some big core themes that they kind of all say. A, they're all competing against themselves. B, this is one that a lot of them mention. They are purposeful with everything that they do. Now, they have to be, because they're getting paid and they're at that level. But if we can be purposeful, like I said, we don't have to do what they do. We just take the principles of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's going to help us.
It's going to help us big time.
And
really
with strength training, it's 100%. They know, they have tested. If you think about doing a bicep curl, think about that muscle contracting versus someone who's just lifting the weight, not paying attention. They track this. You get more muscle activation if your brain is actually having that neuromuscular connection. If you can just, for that short amount of time that you're doing your workouts and in the gym or at home, remember that if you're mindful, if you're doing push-ups, what is the muscle that's doing that? If you're doing pull down, what is the muscle that's doing that? Feel that activation. That is a huge part of getting like twice as much gains for the same amount of work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we want. Being purposeful with your runs, easy runs, all at that easy pace. That is the purpose of it. It is going to be ranges. It's not going to be a set, I'm at 10 minutes, that's my easy pace. No, you need to have a range, 10 to 12, 9 to 11.
Because your body's going to be different every day, right? And we all know
every
that.
Every day, we know the heat's coming. The heat's coming here really fast.
Yeah.
That could add another minute onto your easy run. It doesn't matter as long as your effort's the same. So purposeful, knowing your why, and being able to analyze things and look and be like, hey, if I want something different, I know I'm going to have to change something different. I might not have to change, you don't have to change everything, but look at something that's, start with the recovery part of it. Start to make sure that you're actually taking enough time off. Make sure that, like I said, strength is a huge part of this. So fix those things that are the core thing, and then start making those minor adjustments with other things, and you're going to see things are going to change. You're going to get a little faster. You're going to be able to run a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit easier. But like I said, we just have to be purposeful and be mindful of what we do.
Exactly. So this ties into the last part here, is being purposeful goes back to your nutrition, right? So if you guys are stuck, because we know we all get there, right? Because you just try and you can't quite get there.
Yeah.
You can go to runtips.us/call. That's runtips.us/call. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen here as well. Yeah. And we offer this to you guys because this is why we started this group, because we started focusing so much on our nutrition, and that allowed us to lose the weight, maintain it off, and now we're doing the strength training, and we're more purposeful with our runs, and so we just feel so much better as we get older. We can't stop that, unfortunately.
Yes, we can't stop it, but you know what? You can still thrive. Don't accept the fact that you're getting older and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. No. Yeah. You have a choice in what it's going to be, and your health is the number one thing. Remember, running has to fit under that healthy lifestyle umbrella.
It's the vehicle that we use to help us to maintain health, but the foundation is your nutrition. It is foundational. So I've said this all the time. I'll keep saying it. We're in our 50s. We're our high school weight. We will always be this way. Why? Because we know what to eat.
Yeah, and it's a huge part of not having to worry about that.
Yeah, not even thinking about it. Never even think about it.
Worry about what my body's at where it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
you need to find that where it's supposed to be. If it's not where it's supposed to be, that all things around you you struggle with it, and we don't want that. Exactly. And sometimes it's just not knowing that initial thing to take. So we're here to help. Reach out and so get you moving in the right direction.
Right. So if you go there, you can set up a time on my calendar. It's 30 minutes. Again, you'd be shocked at what you can just change a little bit of just that one thing sometimes will make a big difference. So If you guys want that, you can go to runtips.us/call. And with that, we're going to end it for today.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next Saturday. So hopefully enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. Happy Saturday, everyone.